there's a lot of talk about like, oh, we have to collectively raise the vibration,
Yes.
or we have to collectively wake up. It's not done like that. We don't collectively do anything. Transurfing is about accountability for yourself and your actions, and tuning into the collective is a nice way of saying adhering to a script. When you are adhering to a script that's not created by you to suit your intentions, you are going to sort of be led down a path, and most likely it's not going to serve you. Sometimes you can get lucky, it will serve you, but most likely external scripts written by others for other purposes, right? Like the script the media wanted to lead us down.
Yes.
Those don't really benefit a lot of people. So removing yourself from the script, waking up as an individual, I see myself, I see my reality. What is the script that I can follow now that is best suited for me and my intentions and my trajectory in life? Now, the cool thing is when you raise your frequency, you raise the frequency of others around you, and so on and so forth.
Renée Garcia, welcome to Wellness Force.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm glad to connect with you, and I can't wait to talk about reality transurfing.
Well, reality is an interesting place because it's really open to the eye of the beholder, isn't it? And this is an incredibly rich branch, I believe, of science and spirit. I think that's what you do the best job on with your YouTube and Reality Transurfing Institute. But for people that don't know you, like reality transurfing can be a bit esoteric at times. I really feel like you do a great job of bringing people back home to the 3D, also with the understanding that there's a 4 and a 5. But if people don't know who you are and just a brief synopsis of reality transurfing, if you were in an elevator, Renée, and somebody saw you wearing like a reality transurfing t-shirt, how would you describe it?
Well, the quickest way to describe it is it's a psychological technology that's sort of science-based or quantum-based that helps you in living a better reality, a better life, or a better version of you. And I'm simply taking these concepts and applying them real time and doing so to an audience to show people exactly what you can do with this sort of knowledge. And it seems to be working.
It's definitely working. We had a call maybe 3, 4 months ago, right, in preparation for this interview.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I just really valued your authenticity about the road that you came and walked before co-founding the International Transurfing Institute in 2016. This is the backbone. You're the backbone, you're the voice, but your path was so not linear. I mean, I believe you were in fashion or gems, right? You were selling high luxury gems. I'm sure that was a part of life that you look back on and go, wow, there was a lot of lessons there. But
Yes.
what that path, if you could describe just in a nutshell, like just your journey from going from an industry where it was really about money and finance and zeros and ones, the way that made you feel. Because I'm asking you this because so many people are in situations right now and they don't realize that they're trapped in their own reality that they're creating. And
Yeah.
so if you could just talk about that before we actually get into the science of reality transurfing and also
Mm-hmm.
the mechanisms, just let people know, your path from I believe it was high level jewelry, correct, that got you to your breaking point in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I still run that business. It's my primary business, but I do it in a much different way now. I used to really just load up all of my expectations for what I wanted for myself in my reality on a few specific things. And this is kind of what we do as people. Like, we look to our romantic partner to fulfill all of our needs, right? We look to our profession to fulfill all of our desires for success. And we load up the different, parts of our realities with a bunch of expectations and shoulds, and it's got to be this way, and what we call in the transurfing modality importance, right? Loading up something with a ton of importance, like I've got to see it work out this way, and if it doesn't, I'm going to be unhappy, or I'm going to suffer some kind of consequences or something like that. And this is really the root of a lot of people's unhappiness in this world, is not seeing not seeing the fulfillment they're looking for coming from a specific place. And this is something that, like you said, broke me. I grew up poverty level, but I decided at a young age that I didn't want to follow the footsteps of the generations before me and just sort of accept my lot in life. So I set out in trying to create something different for myself, but in not understanding, David Hawkins put it the best in one of his books, Dr. David Hawkins, Power versus Force, and not understanding the difference between having and taking versus thriving and working from a place of ego or will, that you can really like get yourself into a position where you get what you want, but you almost kill yourself doing it, right?
I'm raising my hand on that one. I've lived that for sure.
There's an easier way to go about having the things that you want in this world. And I went about having the things that I wanted in this world in all the wrong ways. And I really set out with this mindset that I had something to prove. I wanted to prove the trailer park wrong, or prove my, the generations before me wrong, that we could transcend out of being white trash, right?
Sure.
So I had all these things to prove and all this importance, piled up on these different endeavors. And I was working from the wrong place, the wrong places within, going after things that really weren't intended for me. I kind of took cues from my external environment, the impressions that were left on me, that this is how you achieve success. This is what success is. This is, how you hold on to it. All these different things. And at 35 years old, I woke up broken and exhausted, in a place of just, my spirituality, my connection with the quantum field, or the alternative space, as we call it in transurfing, non-existent. I doubted myself. I doubted my reality. I was depressed. I had anxiety. You name it. It was I was not in a good place. And I was so confused, because I was like, wait a second. My environment told me that if I got all this stuff, I'd be happy. I'd feel fulfilled. I had all this stuff. I had the profession and the condo, and I had a lot of things that a lot of people would absolutely love to have. And the more stuff I gained, the more panicked I kind of became, because I was like, oh, wait a second, that's not going to make me happy. I just bought a 42-foot sailboat, and I thought it was going to make me happy. Wait a second, I'm not happy now. Oh, I just went on a luxurious trip somewhere and I am miserable on my trip. What am I going to do? What is going to make me happy then? And what made me finally feel some sense of happiness and fulfillment and meaning was to disconnect from all the things that I believed or was told would bring me happiness, external things, and tune into a place that I had never tuned into before. And that was what we call the soul frail in transurfing, dialing into the little specific code of who you are as an individual and acting from that place instead of connecting to your external environment, doing what your external environment compels you to do for whatever reasons. And that's why a lot of people are unhappy today, is because they're living the external way rather than the internal way.
I got to pause you right there because I'm just visualizing you like sailboat. Everything looks amazing on the outside, but on the inside, either somatically or whatever movie that was playing in your head, it was anticlimactic. Like you got there. And I think we've all been to that place, Renee, where it's like, if I get the things, if I have this much money, I remember mine was like, if I get to $27,000 a month, my life will change forever. And then I got there and I was like, wow, mo money, mo problems. Like it was very much like you're saying. And I think so many of us can relate to this. So what was the big turning point? Because I want to leave lots of room in our conversation for the rich science and all the applications and the core principles of transurfing. But what was the turning point for you where you finally were like, okay, enough is enough. I'm going to create something different here. I'm going to actually look at reality for what it is, for what I create it to be?
Yeah, so the turning point for me was pretty profound. I had given up my life in Los Angeles, my career the way I had been running it. I had completely detached from my entire lifestyle. I left people behind. I moved away. I went up to the Pacific Northwest to my grandparents' property for about a year. I kind of chilled out there and was like, okay, I'm going to gather my thoughts. I'm going to reassess. I'm going to try to connect with some knowledge that can help me, because I really wasn't in the world of self-development. I had gone to therapy, but I really didn't, this is a whole new world to me.
Yes.
And I found Reality Transurfing. I read it. I was absolutely mesmerized. It started to really uncover so much of what I had been through and what I had done wrong, what I had done right, why I was in the place that I was in. It started to answer literally every single question I had been asking. And I was sort of in this place where I had it pretty good. I had saved up a lot of money. I had, sort of automatic income coming in from my business. I had no debt. I bought a beautiful Airstream, put it on my grandparents' property, had a nice garden. I was kind of like living the life, right? I didn't have very many concerns. Things were going smooth. I was in my process of healing. And I was like, okay, this is easy. I could maintain this forever. This is super chill and I love it and it's good. But then one morning I was in the shower and I just had this sense of uneasiness, again. And I'm like, God, something's not right. Something's not right. And I got out of the shower, stood in front of the mirror, and the mirror in the transurfing modality plays a huge, huge role. What we say is reality is simply a mirror reflecting back to you your attitudes, beliefs, and actions towards it, right? Mm-hmm. So, very like, this was very symbolic. I'm standing in front of the mirror. I wipe away the fog on the mirror and I see myself and I think to myself, you've got it so easy. You could do this forever, but what are you going to leave? How are you going to impact the world? How are you going to help? How are you going to leave a mark? Because I'm not married, I don't have kids, and I was just sort of feeling like, okay, I've got it set up, but there's got to be more than that, right? There's got to be more than that. I can't see myself just wasting my potential, wasting everything. And I realized at that moment that reality transurfing was virtually unheard of outside of Russia. It had been translated into English, but nobody heard of it. There was no social media, there was no YouTube channels, there was nobody talking about it, there were no resources. And it just kind of clicked. And I was like, this is it. I'm going to make an impact. I'm going to help people to connect with exactly what has brought me clarity and lucidity. And I'm going to bring it as hard as I can to whoever I can. I started by just thinking I was going to bring it to the US, but now it's gone, totally international, and it's evolved even in just the 6 years that I've been doing it to an extent that I could not even have possibly comprehended in that moment when I realized what I was embarking on. So that was the moment that it sort of flipped. It was like, you got a good life, but what does your soul actually want? And what my soul actually wanted is to do what I'm doing right now. And I've been doing this every single day since then.
It seems so effortless for you, the Reality Transurfing YouTube channel, which for a while there you were going really strong, and now I know you're touring, so there's still some incredible content there that we're going to link in the show notes. So one thing for me that hit the heart when you were sharing is you were wiping off the mirror. It was like the quintessential moment where we actually look at ourselves. Now, 2020, I feel like as a collective, we looked in the mirror. So many people were broken. I mean, look, in America, I've read the data, over 100 million people bankrupt, suicides are rising. Like the reality here, the shared reality that we're experiencing, it doesn't feel good anymore for a lot of people. And one of the concepts that I love about transurfing is the infosphere. Now, the infosphere, as the research states, especially in your transurfing literature, it's this infinite archive of various films where everything that happened, will happen, and could happen is stored. So the big question for me to launch into the transurfing nuts and bolts is, if everything is stored there, then what is the collective reality that we have created here? What do you see that actually is right now? Or is it unique to the soul? There's a shared reality, but there's also a personal one. There's an object and a subject. How do you make sense of this?
Well, that's just an external script, right? Just one of the infinite possible external scripts that could play out or is playing out.
Yes.
And the reason that there are so many adherents to this particular script is because people are buying into it. And I hate to say this, but mindlessly, right? A lot of people are given information and they're not necessarily questioning it or acknowledging that there are different versions of reality that do in fact exist. For me personally, last year, and I've been in business for myself for a lot of years, last year was the best year that I've ever had in business.
Me too.
That whole script of, it all going wrong and unemployment and all that stuff, that's just not part of my reality. Now, it doesn't mean that I didn't experience parts of what most were collectively experiencing, but the tools that I have allowed me to sort of reframe those different attributes of that script and allow them to work in my favor. So like when we all went on lockdown, for me, I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. I get to turn down the volume externally. I'm going to be in my house. And like you said, I hit it pretty hard last year with a video a day on YouTube. This is because I woke up in the moment and I realized, okay, there are two big versions of this script that I could sort of adhere to. One is I could see the whole thing is going to hell. I can get sucked into watching the news all day, being on social media, catastrophizing, worrying like a lot of people are doing. Or I can take this as an opportunity. I can tune out of the noise. Everything's going to be quiet for a while, which it was. Like there wasn't a lot of traveling. There wasn't a lot of people wanting to come by. Everything just sort of simmered down. And I put myself into a mode where I could just start creating. So I actually took that quiet time as a moment to really, really create. And I created a bunch of stuff. I mean, this was like an explosive year for me. So when you say, there's this collective thing going on, collective from a transurfing perspective, and I know that, there's a lot of talk about like, oh, we have to collectively raise the vibration,
Yes.
or we have to collectively wake up. It's not done like that. We don't collectively do anything. Transurfing is about accountability for yourself and your actions, and tuning into the collective is a nice way of saying adhering to a script. When you are adhering to a script that's not created by you to suit your intentions, you are going to sort of be led down a path, and most likely it's not going to serve you. Sometimes you can get lucky, it will serve you, but most likely external scripts written by others for other purposes, right? Like the script the media wanted to lead us down.
Yes.
Those don't really benefit a lot of people. So removing yourself from the script, waking up as an individual, I see myself, I see my reality. What is the script that I can follow now that is best suited for me and my intentions and my trajectory in life? Now, the cool thing is when you raise your frequency, you raise the frequency of others around you, and so on and so forth. That affects.
And then that becomes the collective, but it's a sovereign tool.
Yes, but you're not going to rise up collectively, right? And I know a lot of people in these movements think that they're doing something amazing. And, you know, I guess to some people, evidence to support all theories, that's another thing we say in the transurfing community. To some people, maybe you are doing something cool, but at the end of the day, is it really producing something for you in your life? Is it really facilitating some kind of growth that you can actually have control of, right? So that's kind of what it's about.
I love the metaphor. Honestly, what I've already enjoyed that you've shared is flipping the paradigm on the script. Like, we are fed scripts from, either you look at Mark Wolyn's work of like generational trauma or family constellations. We all know that somewhere, if we've been on the path for a while now, that our parents hand us down scripts that they were then handed down themselves.
Yes.
And the painful part of that is that without awareness, nothing changes. And so I see this movement both in science and spirituality. It's fascinating to me that Vadim, I believe his name is Vadim Zeland, was the co-creator of this, or the creator of the transurfing modality.
He's the author of the books, yes.
He's the author of the books. I love this. He was a Russian quantum physicist. So we look at the woo-woo aspect of many personal development or spirituality programs. And this has its foot in both. And so one of the things I love about you specifically that you quoted with this tangent of both the spiritual and the science, you said, knowledge without application is merely entertainment. Boom. I mean, that's a mic drop of its own right there. So many of us, we get caught, what I believe, in the gathering phase, Renee. We just gather, we listen to podcasts, we read the books, we do all the things, but like the bridge of connection to our soul, either connected or disconnected, is the thing that actually makes us do the things. It actually allows us to practice a new script. So when did that first come to you, that phrase, that knowledge without application is merely entertainment?
Well, you know, I've always, so I've done some pretty remarkable things in my life. From a very, very young age, I started traveling the world extensively on very little money. People are like, how are you doing that? When I started my own business, I put myself into a profession where I was an anomaly. It was primarily older Jewish men and families and Persian and Middle Eastern men, you know, and here it is, I'm this like white chick that's like all of a sudden in the jewelry business. And they're like, how are you doing this? How are you actually like, you know, conducting business in such a closed sort of environment? And I would just say, I don't know. I just show up to the trade shows and go talk to people and I just do it. Like, why does it seem that hard for you to understand? And I would get a lot of questions of how I was actually doing that. When I bought my boat and I learned to sail it single-handedly, how are you doing that? First of all, how did you afford a boat on your own? I mean, I was living quite a lifestyle in Los Angeles. How are you sailing it by yourself? And I was like, I'm just doing it, right? Like I couldn't quite understand what the challenge was for people to, I couldn't put it together. Like, what do you mean I'm just doing it? And later, after I read Reality Transurfing, I realized what that thing was exactly that I was doing. I was lining up with that version of reality via a pretty simple 4-step formula that was, allowing me to experience these different versions of reality pretty easily. And then as I started to coach people, I don't do it anymore. And the reason that I don't coach people anymore is exactly what we're talking about right now. People would come to me and say, my life's messed up. I'm not happy professionally. I've got a bunch of problems with relationships and family. I'm feeling unfulfilled. Blah, 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 blah. And I'd say, okay, so I'm going to give you this set of things to do and start doing them, and you'll see improvement. And more or less, and I know this is quite general, people loved the idea of transurfing. They loved the conversation, the concepts, all the stuff, the way that it made them feel. But at the end of the day, they lacked the desire or the intent or the ability to actually take in their lives, to get off their butts and actually move in the direction of that version of reality. So this is kind of like the key to the alternative space is action. And it also solves a lot of our perceived problems in reality. Action, 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 action. And this is where the rubber meets the road. Somebody asked me recently, how many people do you feel you actually affect in what you're doing with getting transurfing out to the world? And I said, honestly, maybe only about 10%. And the person said, well, why do those 10% gain the benefit and the other 90 don't? And I said, it's action. The 10% that are gaining the action are actually taking my words, my videos, my lessons, my course, whatever it is, and they're applying it to their lives and they're seeing results. And I've been very candid and open about this on my YouTube channel. If you're here to be entertained, awesome. I will entertain you. But if you think your reality is going to change just by the fact that you're entertained about what I'm talking about, then have fun with it and then on to the next modality.
What is it about these people? The 10% then? What is it about these 10%? Is it their soul contract that allows them to take that inspired action? Because listen, you could just take massive action. You could row the boat in the wrong direction. Your arms will get buffed, but you'll never reach the shore. So why do those 10% of people feel either the inspiration to take that inspired action or just to take a calculated dream-based action? What is so special about these 10%?
Well, I think that action is like the the alternative space, everything that has been, is now, will be, where all inventions come from, languages, every variation of reality, right? Everything that's outside of us, including us. When you take action, you open yourself up to different streams of variations. You access different variables, different doors, people, opportunities, ways to network. And a lot of people their minds are fearful of the variables. So they stay confined into what I call the box of limiting beliefs, right? And it's within this box that most people feel safe, that they don't have to ever challenge themselves or take a foot in a step in a direction that may be a little too out of the comfort zone or unknown, and it's really just a matter of perspective. The 90% that are just entertained and don't actually take action are fearful of all the variables, whereas the 10% of people that take action view those different variables in a positive way, right? And understand that, there's an infinite number of ways that you can shift around in your reality. And just taking one small step outside of that box of limiting beliefs or box of comfort, right, opens you up to even more. And exponentially, all those variables start to increase and multiply when you exit that box. For most people, this is very, very, very scary. For my parents, very scary. For other people in my life, very scary. For some other people I know, like my partner, he read Reality Transurfing. He quit a corporate job of 20 years and is now a thriving entrepreneur in a very lucrative space and really just thrown himself into the alternative space. Some people just have the guts to do it, and other people don't.
Oof. Let's pause right there. What comes up for me is the phrase spiritual courage. Spiritual courage. You can only embody spiritual courage when you have an experiential learning of the process. So what is it about Reality Transurfing that can cultivate spiritual courage?
Well, we have a ton of what I like to call path insurance or goal insurance, right? We have a lot of little techniques and tricks that are kind of like backup, or if things don't go exactly in the way that you are wanting to see things go.
Which sounds like almost everything.
Yes, it is. But
At times.
what we say in the transurfing modality, and this is what has helped me to get so far, is you set the vector of the flow, right? So imagine that reality is a big ocean and there's a lot of different currents and you're in a little sailboat and you want to navigate your boat to a specific destination. You set the vector of the flow in which you're going to go towards that destination in your boat. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have to, and I'm going to use a few sailing terms here, doesn't mean that you're not going to have to tack or switch directions a little bit to hit a different stream to keep you at least going in the direction or maybe reroute you eventually to that exact path between you and your intention, where you intend on navigating to. A lot of people, what they want to do is they want to set that vector, right? Here's my destination, and I want it to literally be just direct. I want to go straight there. I want to go straight there in the ways that my mind can perceive is exactly the right way. The problem is our minds are extremely limited in their abilities to see paths. What will show us a path is what we call outer intention. This is your world's idea of that path. And oftentimes your world has a much better path for you to that intention with a lot of help, right? A lot of external help from your world. But people are reluctant to trust. People are reluctant to continue taking action in the direction when things seem like they're against your intention, or you've gotten diverted, or you simply cannot see how something is going to unfold, right? This is where a lot of people get lost. They're like, okay, I want this thing, and I'm going to take the few steps that I know how to take. And then when I can't think of any more steps, I'm going to panic and think that I've made the wrong choice and simply give up on the goal. This is what a lot of people do. And as transurfers, we know, we trust our world. Maybe sometimes the next step isn't so obvious. But if we can just sit back for a moment and relax and enjoy that period of silence, quiet down the mind, tune into the heart a little bit, your world will absolutely show you the next step if you are able to continue trusting and listen and realize that it's most likely not going to come from you, right? And this is, and when we began this conversation initially before we turned on the camera, you know, I brought up this thing, power versus force.
Yes.
David Hawkins. This is exactly what Dr. David Hawkins is talking about, is he's talking about the difference between trying to force something on your own with your will and your ego, striving, pushing, doing, hustling, grinding. We're in this culture where, you know, hustling and grinding is glorified. And it's like, okay, so if all of this, like this culture around hustling and grinding is out there, why are so many people still struggling with getting what they want? It's because that can only take you so far. When you understand how your external environment, the alternative space, what we call in transurfing, the alternative flow, when you understand the value in how what external to you is going to help you towards your goal and help you sort of carve that path out, then you can stop with all that hustling and that all that grinding and all that inner intention, which is energetically ineffective. This is where most people exhaust themselves. My pre-transurfing reality, this is what broke me, right? Is me using my energy in a way that was not totally efficient, not totally effective. And once I realized another mode of operation, the power mode of operation, letting my world do the majority of the heavy lifting, and I simply answer the call when my world calls me, right? Hey, Renee, over here, this is where you're needed. Put some attention and energy here, then move over here, then do this, then do that. And then suddenly I've gotten what I've wanted, but I'm not totally broken and depleted. And I have my world doing the heavy lifting. I just show up to actually facilitate the thing when I'm called to do so.
The point of consciousness that you're talking about, the my world, and I say that if you're watching with this on video, in air quotes, I think we all understand that, like, we create our own reality in some way, whether you're spiritual or scientific, like, we kind of get that. But when you say my world, what does that mean to you, my world?
So my world means all of the different variables and the different things outside of me that I can't possibly comprehend, like how they can come together in a way that makes my time towards my goal easier. So I'll give you a pretty basic example of something that you've probably experienced, probably everybody listening has experienced. So I'm sure you had a time where, like, you wanted something, right? And then you did what you could do. You thought it wasn't working and you kind of gave up on it. But then all of a sudden somebody calls you and is like, oh, hey, you know, that thing you were talking about, here's an opportunity. And all you got to do is show up on Tuesday at 3, right? And then you're like, well, wait a second, why was I tripping so hard about it not working? I could have just sat back and chilled and waited for that invitation and not wasted so much energy doubting and stressing and worrying. So this was your world handling that thing for you without you even really being involved, right? And this has happened like in ways that, and once you can tap into this thing, you'll see that there have been lots of times in your life where if you could just back up off the thing for a minute, things are playing outside of you more so than any of us give credit for, right? Things are always happening. We live in a dynamic place with lots of external stuff flying around and information connecting and people connecting and all kinds of things happening. And again, we sort of think that anything of value is going to come from within, right? Any connection with an opportunity or networking or creating something. But once you've sort of, gone about connecting yourself to the alternative space, this is one of the first lessons in my course, is developing a really firm connection with the alternative space. You'll realize that 95% of it's actually happening externally. And again, all you have to do is bring it when you're called. So my world means everything and all the different variations and the different information sort of working external to me that will eventually, in some way or another, sort of flow right up to me and present itself to me. And that's my world bringing me something. So we have a saying in the Transurfing modality. These are our stickers that we live by. I know you probably can't see this, but I'll just read it. My world is taking care of me. Everything is going according to plan. Things are working out beautifully and will continue to do so with ease. So if you steer this into your brain as a transurfer, people have seen beyond life altering change in their realities just from buying into this, because this takes all that stress off of you, which allows you to build up an energy reserve. So when your world is taking care of you, bringing you what you needed, you releasing yourself from, this isn't going according to plan. No, it is going according to plan. If you can back up off yourself and your will and your ego, it's actually all going according to plan. Your world's going to take care of it. And then it's going to present to you exactly what you need to do to facilitate whatever it is you're desiring. And it really comes that easy. I know this probably sounds a little bit esoteric right now, but once you've gotten into the mode of thinking like this, it's just like a lot of people say, I can't believe I ever bought into there ever being another way. This is it. And I can't believe I ignored or I didn't listen to calls in the past trying to show me another way. It's almost like your brain just switches into another mode and you're like, how could it be this easy?
One of the things that hit me is you said plan. And immediately I thought, well, whose plan? Is it the universe? Is it God? Right? Like, I don't know your definition of God or how that relates to reality transurfing, but think about the controller of all things, that omnipresent, that is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I mean, we're talking about the mystery of life here, Renée. It's a very mysterious place at times where on our process to the goal, on our walk to the goal, whatever the goal is, we have this slide that we're looking at. And I believe you talk about this in your work, where we're constantly reaffirming, we're gathering the evidence that we're on the right path, regardless of what's appearing. And one of the things that I love when I was looking at this quantum field is that quantum is an informational field that does not comply with the laws of physics and cannot be detected by any functional devices. Therefore, it's hardly explored. But what you're talking about, and I threw some different terms on it, is the ultimate experience of life itself, of God, of spirit, of a higher power. How do you relate to that, the definition of higher power and God, when we look at the quantum, or in conversation, the plan? Who's planning it?
So there's your heart is actually planning it. There's really no, you know, it's funny that you asked this question, and I'll just be very open with my experience of this. About 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I had a problem with sleeping pills. And for 2, 3 years, I'd take a sleeping pill every night. It started to cause me a lot of mental anguish. And I decided to go to AA to get myself off of sleeping pills. And when I was there, they were like, okay, you got to, one of the steps, you've got to develop a relationship with God. I was like, what the hell? I don't want to do that. Like I don't believe in God. They're like, you can choose anything. You can choose anything you want. And I was like, okay, then I'm going to believe in a power outside of me that is like the keeper for everything that I want, that can extend to me abundance of anything. And it's just like, and what I was thinking in my mind was the alternative space or the quantum field, right? That's what I was thinking at the time. So later, fast forward, I find reality transurfing. I start reading about, the alternative space and what we call outer intention. Again, this is your world bringing up to you exactly what you need to facilitate something that you want. When I was reading about this, I'm like, hey, that's what I was talking about originally with my higher power, right? So the cool thing is about transurfing, you said we live in a mysterious world, and, in a way, yes, but when you read reality transurfing, as I've told lots of people in the past, it's kind of like you're peering behind that curtain. The Wizard of Oz, when they peer behind the curtain and see that the wizard's just a dude sitting up there.
He's on the microphone. Yeah.
Yes.
Scaring everyone.
Exactly. So it's actually not that mysterious once you read reality transurfing. I would say 95% of the questions that I've ever had about this world or my reality or my experience of it were answered in the book. The other 5% I'm still learning, but more or less, I feel like I have a really, really good understanding of my world and my relationship to it. That being said, God, the higher power, different religions of the world, everybody's sort of looking to something bigger and higher. And there is something bigger and higher. And this is the quantum field, the alternative space, that power, right? Force versus power, that power that brings you something. So like when people pray, oh, please God, save my house from burning down during the wildfire. What's actually happening here is the person is trying to tap into outer intention, the alternative space, that variation of reality where a wind switches and diverts the fire away from their home. Right? So praying is just kind of like asking that power beyond you to skew things in your favor. So transurfing is really a beautiful accoutrement to any religion. You don't have to believe in God, or you could not believe in God, but really it is powerful to believe, or to know rather, because it's more than believing, it's knowing that your world actually will lead you in the best and most perfect direction intended for you if you are tapped into, getting back to a term that I touched on when we began, your soul frail. So those that are really living the lives that they want to live, those that are really feeling fulfilled or provided for or happy or content, or like they're living the right reality for them, those are the people like Dr. David Hawkins or Vadim Zeland or Elon Musk or whoever who's really killing it in life. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Elon Musk isn't happy. I'm assuming he is.
He might be an alien. We don't know.
Yeah.
We have no idea.
Yeah, we have no idea exactly. But in my belief, from my knowledge,
Yes.
the people that are killing it and living exactly the way that they want to live and getting the things that they want and they're happy and they're fulfilled are the people that are connected to the quantum field via that soul frail, that little specific code of who you are as an individual and living that connection between the two.
It's a
So
beautiful
that's
way. It's a beautiful way, Renee, to describe it. I love this concept of the soul frail. And in your work, which we're linking in the show today, this is what you can actually do: is get attached and understand the meaning and the application and the functionality of this soul frail. And I love the terms you use because, again, like I mentioned before, this is like science and spirituality. This is both. And one thing that I noticed in your group that I was really actually surprised to see, and also it felt really authentic, is you asked your community. You said, "Hey, what's one of the flaws in the transurfing modality?" And actually, one of my friends, Shauna, shout out to Shauna if you're listening to the show, she mentioned that this could be, if not used properly, something that could be used to spiritually bypass. And also, someone else wrote that specific understanding of the RT books can lead to narcissistic tendencies and goals. So just like there is a dark and a night and black and white and yin yang, with any tool, there can be a misappropriation of its power. What do you say to this?
well, in my opinion, transurfing is a knowledge based in non duality. We don't really believe in black and white. We believe in what is good for you. So in that regard, I definitely could understand how some people could view reality transurfing as being, a tool for a narcissist for sure. But I think narcissist is really thrown around in our culture
It's
a
kind of
little too much.
weaponized. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that when you guilt someone or when you call someone a narcissist or you say you're living narcissistically or any of that kind of stuff, what you're attempting to do is keep people or that person adhering to the script of your choosing. So I'm always careful when somebody's like, calling somebody else a narcissist. I'm thinking, well, are you just trying to control them to keep on your script rather than them writing the script of their own reality?
Yes.
So here's the thing. In the transurfing modality, we say anything goes. Absolutely anything goes, as long as you are not hurting another person or people. So if
Beautiful.
you want to do whatever, right, and you're not hurting anyone. Now, again, this is a little subjective because maybe you decide you want to do something and your parents are like, oh, we don't want you. Like, maybe you're like, you know what, kids aren't for me. And your parents are like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Like, is that hurting someone?
Sure.
Well, this is up for your own interpretation, but it is about opening your eyes to how society guilts you or pressures you into adhering from the script and really detaching and being like, you know what? Nah, I'm doing my own thing. And if that bothers you, then you don't need to be a part of my reality. But obviously things like violence,
Sure.
anything that's going to
There's
injure.
universal truths that we all recognize that harm people. I totally
Yes.
understand. And I love where we are in the conversation. And I wish we had 2 hours to talk because I feel like we've literally scratched the surface of the iceberg of what
Yes.
transurfing really. Talking to you is so easy. Like we just had like so much time go by. But for me, like this is a big hit to the heart because working harder, quote, quote, seems to be like what we're told as children. Like you got to work hard, get good grades, go to college, fill in the blank. Alan Watts calls it all retch and no vomit. And I know my audience has heard me say that before so many times, but I'm saying it again, y'all, because
I
just work
love
hard and you'll
that.
be successful is simply not true. Look at a gardener. They bust their ass all day. Are they, quote, successful? I don't know. That's to the degree that you might see success through a lens of how you value it. But what is your definition of this? When we look at being successful and what does that even mean to you? And then contrast that with maybe some of the key variables of transurfing that can really give people that spiritual courage, as we talked about, to get them the thing they want, to make them successful?
So I read once somewhere, I can't remember where, I believe it was in a G.I. Gurdjieff book. I don't know if you're familiar with G.I. Gurdjieff. He was another Russian mysticist. I believe that's where I got this from. He said that at the end of your life, like literally right before you're ready to die, there's a 3 or 4 second period of time where you feel an intense sensation, which is made up of all your previous experiences and memories that you've lived in your life. So if you were a bad person, that 3 or 4 seconds is going to feel pretty crummy, right? If you killed it and you brought it every single day, that 3 or 4 seconds is going to feel really amazing, right? No regret, like you lived it. You're feeling that last 3 or 4 seconds in just absolute bliss that you brought yourself to the best of your ability. So this is kind of, getting back to that, standing in front of the mirror, wiping the fog away, thinking to myself, what am I going to leave? How am I going to impact the world? That's all gone now, right? I'm not really thinking like that anymore. Now what I'm doing is I'm gearing myself up for that 3 or 4 seconds, because I want to really feel like in that 3 or 4 seconds that I did everything I could do, connected with that soul frail. I didn't fear exiting that box of comfort or limiting beliefs. I threw myself in to my world, my alternative space. I answered calls. I took opportunities. I did crazy things, right? Connected with why I'm here. So before, success was very like money and house and this and that. And don't get me wrong, I still like money and I still have money. I still like making money. But at the end of the day, like I just got back from a trip to Egypt. I'm going again in a month to give a series of seminars. I meet people when I'm there. People come up to me and they tell me like, oh my God, this knowledge has changed my life. I've got a huge following in the Middle East. This is my wealth now. This is my success. When I go to bed and when I'm on one of these trips, I'm just like, girl, you are absolutely killing it. I'm not thinking, oh, I just had money come into my bank account.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not there at all. So it's really just about feeling, for me, are you doing what you are intended to do while you are here, period? Right. And are you living your fullest potential? Are you answering those calls? A few months ago, a very poor local library in a small village in Pakistan contacted me and said that they had a ton of requests for reality transurfing books. And I put together a little fundraiser. I matched it all, 50% of whatever anybody donated. And we bought them a huge amount of books and had them shipped. And logistically, it was an absolute nightmare, customs fees, and it was insane. And they got the books and they took a picture of them all lined up. There must have been 50 of them, super poor rural village in Pakistan, holding up reality transurfing books. That is success for me, right? That was success. That was me feeling like, now I didn't make anything, right? Quite the contrary, it cost me a bunch of money, but that was success. That was me being successful.
I want to let that land. I want to let that land just for a moment. Like, wow, okay, we are here in America and the dollar has become, I don't know, God in a way, some kind of deity. It's like we're all striving for money, and when we get there, we'll have the thing. And I've fallen prey to that many times. What you just said is so powerful, and I really want everyone to just let this sink in. It is being aligned, like you said, to the soul frail, understanding that, feeling connected to that, and then serving. That is the biggest reward we could ever receive. Dollars and cents will come, but like this is really what life is about, is serving other people instead of
Oh,
just serving the self. That is
yeah,
actually the quintessential cup that we're all drinking from. That's the Holy Grail, my friends. So
that's
thank
the
you,
Holy
Renee.
Grail.
That's
And
it.
I have to tell you, when I got that picture of those people holding that book, those books, I sat down on the floor of my house and I started crying. You know, I
Yeah.
never in my life
Mm.
cried when I made a big profit on a jewelry sale. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That just, it wasn't mine. It didn't have meaning. It didn't have, there wasn't the essence of who I truly was as a human being in that profit. That was just money. The essence of who I truly am was in that delivery of
Mm.
those books, and I'll live with that for the rest of my life. That's my wealth. That's my wealth.
I have two last things before we say goodbye. The first one is, what is it about the psyche? And it kind of dovetails with my last question of what are the tools inside of Transurfing that helps people get to their success? And you and I just define success as the Holy Grail. But what is it? What is it really about the human psyche that allows us to get trapped in that? When I have money, I'll be safe. When I have this, I'll be okay. You know, the wrong kind of, I guess you could say, diluted water that we're drinking, that somehow success and fulfillment comes from all these things outside of ourselves and what we can attain and all this stuff. What is it about the human experience with your expertise and your training? Why do we get trapped there?
Well, we get trapped there because we're human beings, but we're also animals, and survival for us. And I'm
Yeah.
a bit of a nihilist, actually. I know
I
that
always say this. I'm always like, we're half beast, half spirit. Like, we got to honor both in some
exactly.
way.
The problem is the beast in most of us takes over, right? And our need to feel that our rate of survival is high is based on two things: money and sex, right? Or family, doing what we are put here to do, which is procreate, and also to provide so we can ensure our genetics see another lifetime, right? This, we haven't evolved out of this. So the whole hustling and grinding thing, or people taking pictures of what they're eating at a nice restaurant to put on Facebook, or people flaunting the fact that they, are on a luxurious vacation. This is all just displays of, hey, look at me. I'm surviving at a level that is higher than you, or I'm just surviving at a level that I deem to be high enough to the extent that I'm going to try to, promote this. It's like that bird in the Amazon that picks its nest all perfect and then blares its tail out and makes a big colorful display. That's essentially what we're trying to do when
Oh my God. I literally just saw that last night. I'm like, I've had multiple chill moments in this convo. I literally just saw that. We got a new TV and I was like, it's like this huge TV and I was like, look at this bird like doing all these crazy things and I wondered like, why do they do that?
yes.
You're literally hitting on the exact point right there. So it's just so powerful, Renee, and I'm sorry to cut you off. We have to go.
Okay.
Unfortunately, right now we have to go, but
Yep.
this isn't goodbye
Big
forever.
stuff.
Yeah, this isn't goodbye forever. I want to have more dialogue about this with you. Maybe we can do a Facebook Live or more media around this because it's
Let's do
so
that.
powerful. It's so powerful that people understand this concept. Reality transurfing is a technology for the psychology. It's a technology for your mind. So, in the same way that we use computers or we use microphones and all these things, can we allow ourselves to be curious about what kind of technology exists, like the reality transurfing, that'll actually allow us to have a bigger energy reserve? Everyone I know is exhausted. Everyone I know is taxed in some way. As we say goodbye, two things. Number one, where can people dig in with you, learn more, get involved, begin the journey of transurfing? And then number two, with all you know and everything you've learned from your own personal experience, please define wellness for us. This is a signature question I ask every guest on the show. How do you define wellness? How do you define living your life well? So please, those two things before we say goodbye.
Okay, awesome. So I've got a ton of stuff to dig into. Transurfing TV on YouTube, over 650 videos of me talking about this stuff. We have a very active and thriving Facebook group community, International Transurfing Institute on Facebook. huge, nice, big, juicy conversations about all these concepts. You can go to my website to learn more, transurfing.us. I'm on Instagram, reality_transurfing. And we have a rockin' course, comprehensive on Teachable. It's called Reality 2.0. I will give the link to you. You can share it with your audience. You can go ahead and, check out all the reviews. It's pretty amazing. What wellness means to me, it's pretty easy. Your heart is in it, feeling it, happy, fulfilled, and your mind also agrees. So it's not just your mind working, it's your heart also having a say, or having the primary say. And then your brain is simply involved in the logic rather than it just running the show on its own. And of course, having your frequency up. This is basic self-care, diet, exercise, tuning out of things like the media and violence on TV, yes, and drugs and alcohol and all that kind of stuff, and getting yourself healthy where your energy levels are high to do the things that are intended for you, specifically connecting you with the success that you want to experience in this life, because you only got one.
Yeah, this is it. This is our only unique soul expression, at least at this point in time, right? There's many multiple realities, and that's a whole different podcast. So look, guys, knowledge without application, it's merely entertainment. So take what you've learned today with Renee and I. Take a deep breath, love yourself, put it to use. Renée Garcia, thank you for coming on the show. Hands together, head bowed for what you're doing in the world. I love it. 4 different people had brought you up to me. And wow, it was 4 months ago when we had our pre-call talk. And I'm just so overjoyed with how this conversation went. And I know that this has sparked a ton of curiosity for people to go explore this more. So thank you for coming on the show.
Awesome, Josh. Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Okay, you guys, until we see you again, Renee and I are both wishing you so much love and wellness. We'll talk to you soon.